I'm Harriette Van Spall, Associate Professor of Medicine and Cardiologist from McMaster University in Canada, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have with me Dr. John Spertus, the Clinical Director of Outcomes Research at St. Luke's Mid-America Heart Institute and the Lower Missouri Endowed Chair and Professor of Medicine at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. Welcome, Dr. Spertus.
Thank you so much, Dr. Van Spall. It's a pleasure to be here and talking with you.
We are here at HA 21 to discuss your exciting CHIEF-HF trial. Thank you so much for carving out the time for this. Let me ask you first and foremost about the innovative trial design, which is so exciting to me because it represents decentralization and digitization of the clinical trial enterprise. Tell us a little bit about your methods, and then we'll get into the healthcare implications and results.
Sure. Well, we've long, especially in the US, even Canada's better than we are in sort of executing efficiently clinical trials. They take a long time. They're very expensive. And frankly, they're very burdensome on both providers and patients with frequent site visits for laboratory draws, blood measurements, or even just refilling the medications requires the patient essentially taking half a day out of their life to come in, wait, be seen, park, pay for parking, all those hassles just to get a bottle of medicines and make sure they're doing okay. And the Institute of Medicine about a decade ago really wrote a major report on the need to revamp clinical trials. And what was so novel about CHIEF was, first of all, and very near and dear to my heart, was the fact that it primarily emphasized patient symptoms, function, and quality of life, their health status. And that's measured with a questionnaire, in this case, the Kansas City Cardiomyopathy Questionnaire. And because a questionnaire could be easily administered over an iPhone or an Android device or an iPad, it created the opportunity to do the entire trial and all the follow-up completely virtually without a face-to-face visit. And so while it took some infrastructure to ship the randomized meds and to ship the Fitbit, which were other aspects of the trial, ultimately it was completely done, through a patient's iPhone and through an app. And that was sort of something that we were very excited about when we launched it. And of course, when we launched the trial, there was not much data at all, if any, on the quality of life benefits of SGLT2 inhibitors. So things aligned, but we had no idea that the COVID pandemic was coming. And that literally shut down clinical trials around the globe because a lot of scheduled visits, all of a sudden there was incomplete follow-up, there were all kinds of problems. And we launched the entire trial a week or two before President Trump shut down America for COVID. And we finished in the midst of the Delta resurgence in February. And the fact that an entire trial could be launched, enrolled, completed, analyzed in the middle of a global pandemic really underscores the power and importance of these kinds of novel patient-centered study designs. And so it was somewhat good timing, somewhat, taking advantage of emerging technology, and somewhat luck that we ended up having such a unique opportunity to highlight the power of this kind of study design.
Right. Tell us a bit about how you recruited and consented patients digitally.
So we're still obviously have a foot in two different boats, right? So there's a lot of regulatory concerns about, making sure all the proper, consents and processes are in place. There's a need, as scientists to have a lot of confidence that the patients enrolled have exactly the disease and what the status of that disease is. And so the way this was designed is that sites were recruited, and those sites were then invited to create essentially a computer phenotype, survey your population for patients with heart failure. This study enrolled heart failure of essentially any etiology, HFrEF, HFpEF. Ideally, you would identify patients who were not on SGLT2 inhibitors. And then the sites were free to invite those patients however they wanted. Some sites literally just sent out one mass email to tens of thousands of patients with no follow-up, no activity, and they didn't enroll very many patients. Other sites sort of did more of a pre-screening of patients scheduled for visits and talked to them. And a lot of times these were telehealth visits, but it prompted the docs. And others did something in between with sort of focused emails or patient portal sort of reach outs to try and identify potentially eligible patients. And then those who were essentially alerted that this study was starting, if they were so motivated, would then go to a website to learn about the study.